So the next thing we want to do next is drag off of our setting of our current surface. So we're going to play sound at location. Okay, and what sound do we want to play? Well, that is going to be depending on what surface type that we're on. So what we want to do is drag a wire out of our get surface type here and do a search for a select node. If I can spell select correctly. What this is going to allow us to do is take our return value in here and plug it into the sound input of our play sound at location. Watch what happens to our select node when I release this. Now what we've got going on here is depending on our surface type that we return from our line trace, we can select a different sound to play. So this will spit out a surface type and say it's, I don't know, mud. And in this case, if it is mud, we're going to slot in a sound called Start Simulate Q. Now this is just an engine editor sound. If you don't find this, you can make sure you've got your view options, show engine content turned on, because this sound, if you see the path there, is in the engine content. This is just a placeholder sound. It doesn't actually sound like our character is running on mud, but this is where you can import sounds of your choosing to have a more realistic sound. Okay, so if it's mud, we're going to play that. If it is gravel, we're going to play, let's go with End Simulate. It doesn't matter if you put it in a sound wave or sound cue. This is also in the engine content. And then for the snow, let's put in compile. So actually, I got that backwards. For the gravel, just to make sure I'm following along with my notes, the gravel I'm going to put in compile success. I'm just being absolutely particular now. That is also in the engine sounds. And for the snow, we'll put in End Simulate. Okay, so this is how that setup works. Depending on the surface type, we're going to be playing different sounds. Now we got to feed this a location. Where are we going to play this sound? Well, we can grab our impact point and drag a wire from our break hit result impact point all the way over to our location. And then I can bring in a couple reroute nodes to sort of snake this around. And that will be our sound when we walk upon those different surface types. Now, hearing that same sound effect play again and again and again is going to get really grating. So let's add a little variety here. If we click this little down arrow on our play sound at location, we can expose our volume multiplier and our pitch multiplier. And what we can do to add a little variety here is drag backwards off of one of these and do a search for a random float in range node. And this will allow us to give some variation to the volume. I'll go a minimum of, let's say, 0.7, maximum of 1.3. And then I can Control C and Control V this node and plug this into our pitch multiplier. And for a min, we'll go a little bit more strict of a range, 0.9 to 1.1. And that'll give us a little bit of volume and pitch variation, so it is not so grating. Okay, so that's all good for our sound effect. What about a particle effect? Wouldn't that be sweet? I think so. So what we can do is, I'm going to zoom on out here a little bit. I'm going to drag off of our get surface type one more time. We're going to search for another select node. I'll bring in a reroute or two here, reroute node. And what we want to do next is right click and do a spawn emitter at location. Make sure you've got this execution wire plugged into our spawn emitter at location. And now, what emitter do we want to play? What particle effect? Well, that will be determined on whatever our surface type index here is for our select node. So we plug this into our emitter template. Watch what happens to the select node. Boom. Now I can slot in the appropriate asset type. You can see in the little tooltip there, it knows that I should be slotting in a particle system. All right, so what do we want to slot in for each of these? Let's just do gravel right here. Just to keep this shorter, you can see now how this is all done. I'm just going to put in the explosion for gravel. P explosion, that's in the starter content. And in the interest of time, I will let you fill out these other ones, the mud and the snow. I'm just going to do the explosion for the gravel. And of course, I need to feed this a location as well. Where do I want to spawn this? Well, here too, why don't I use the impact point? So I can simply extend off of this reroute node, plug that into the location there, and that is all well and good. Okay, so this is all good for our right foot. What about our left foot? What could we do about that? Now, it might seem obvious to get a left foot playing a sound and playing a particle effect. I could simply plug in an anim notify left foot right above this and snake this into our line trace. However, I am going to have separate left foot and right foot decals, those footprints out in our gravel in another video here, so I'm not going to do that right at this point. So instead, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to copy and paste this whole bit of script here, all that we've got here so far. I'm going to hit Control C to copy it, and then down below, I'm going to hit Control V. And the only change that I'm going to make to this bottom section is instead of this custom event, because we can only have one of each event, it did not copy over that right foot. I'm going to delete that out, right click, and do a search for left foot. And let's bring in our event anim notify left foot. Okay, I'm going to bring out a comment box for each of these. So if I zoom on out, left click and drag, tap the C key. I'm going to call this my left foot script. It's a pretty big comment box here. And then if I come up above, left click and drag, tap that C key, this is going to be our right foot. Enter. Of course, you should compile to make sure your script is all good and save. And if I jump in and play here, you're going to notice something. Here we go. There is my character. You see that line trace, the red line going down from my character. This is me on my gravel layer. Mud layer, where I've got the fields going on. And oh, wait for it, got some snow going on. And what you'll notice is that everything seems broken. And the reason for that is because it is. However, this is not my fault. You saw this working in the last video. Currently, as of this recording, I'm just going to bring on this bug report that is a known issue as of today's date. Epic Games knows about it. They've got 72 upvotes on this particular issue, that currently the landscape surface type is always returning default. So when you are doing this video, this should be fixed. They have a hot fix plan for it, but if it is not, know that there is currently a bug that exists for this as of this recording. However, all is not lost. We can still test that this is still technically working. How can we do that? Well, back in my map here, I have gone ahead prior to this video and I've placed a static mesh out in my level. All I did is in my modes panel, I grabbed a cube, placed it down in my level, and I sized it up. Then what I did is over in the details panel, I slotted my physical material of the physical material gravel onto it. And so what will result here is as I play, now you can see that I've got explosion particle effects going off, and you can hear that sound playing. So note that this whole surface system should be working for your landscape. Currently a bug. It will get fixed by the fine folks at Epic Games soon. Anyways, guys, that is going to do it all for this one, our Footfall FX script. In the next one, we're going to add our Footfall decal script where we're going to leave some footprints behind. We'll see you there.